Hey everyone, welcome back to Nothing Subtle Here. This is Leah, your host, and if you're watching on YouTube, then you know we have a guest today. Woo! And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, then you don't get to see my lovely guest. But
on Spotify you do.
Oh, this is true. He's already butting in, you guys. This should be interesting. What number are we on?
13.
Episode number 13. So if this is your first time, welcome to Nothing Subtle Here. Today, I have our very first guest, and I can already tell you it's going to be my most favorite guest, mostly because it's my son, Isaiah.
I mean, what can I say?
We didn't test this equipment, so I'm really hoping his voice is coming up because I'm looking over at the computer and
it definitely is coming up.
You're the top one and it doesn't look like much.
Okay.
So hopefully this is working. So, not that anyone, again, would probably notice, but a little aside before we jump in, I have my glasses on today. I also asked Isaiah's opinion, and he said he didn't care, so that was super helpful. And then I also have no makeup on, so that's awesome.
You actually do have makeup on.
I have a thin layer of bottom mascara.
Which she's not supposed to have that on.
Okay. So I have
look good. I know I need to have it on both eyes.
Well, I didn't want to look like bougie on one eye and broke on the other.
Well, then just don't put it on.
Okay, so anyways, the reason is because I have a cornea ulcer. So apparently my cornea was scratched, and then I put contacts in, and it basically caused a breakdown in my cornea and is actually quite serious. And so I have this little dot on my eye. It was burning on fire. It was really bad. So now I'm under some pretty aggressive treatment, have gone back and forth twice now, and I have to go back again on Friday. So hopefully it will be good. But if you see me, this is why I will look like this. This is about as good as it gets right now. So anyways, I'm anxious and excited and ready, and we're back. We had a little interruption. My alarm went off because I need to take my drops for my eye.
For her corneas.
Anyways, so what is Isaiah doing here?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. I invited Isaiah, and he has graciously agreed. Well, not quite graciously, but he did agree. And I thought that it would be a really great opportunity to hear from him and to hear his perspective, because he has been the man behind the camera and, well, not so much the camera, but the editing. And for the record, actually, before we start, Isaiah, did I ask you if I was able to share our story before I ever did the podcast?
No, why would she deny joking?
He's a liar.
Yes.
Yes, I did. So for those wondering, it wasn't his first time hearing the story. His birth story, he was well aware of it, although he probably didn't have all the details.
No.
And if you want people to hear you can't whisper.
No. I didn't.
Okay. So, Isaiah.
Yes.
Thank you for coming and being on Nothing Subtle Here. And I guess let's just start with some questions. What was it like hearing the podcast? Since you weren't in this room while I was recording, but afterward I would bring the phone in, we'd plug it into the computer, and then you would start listening. And you didn't even know that this journal even existed, did you?
No.
could not. All you knew is that I was going to share parts of our story. And so what was that like listening to the first time?
It was goofy. I don't know. It was. I knew you were always had like journals and stuff like that, and you're like, I will never let anyone ever read these. And she'd even go on these tangents of being like, even if I die, never read these journals. So it was a little like shocking, like hearing like it, because like I would have never thought to ever like read the journals ever. But
Yeah. So it sounds like there was a shock value.
Mm-hmm.
And you said goofy. I'm not sure what that means.
Silly goofy.
Oh, silly. Okay.
It's like, I don't know.
All right. So what was the most surprising thing that you heard, whether good or bad or indifferent? And you should probably hold the microphone towards your face so that people can actually hear your response.
What's the question?
What was the like maybe most shocking thing that you heard? Whether it was like a good shock, bad shock, indifferent, doesn't matter.
Like in the podcast?
Yeah, like when you were hearing your story.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the stuff about like family that I didn't know about. Like I didn't know that like all those places that you like lived before I was born. Like I didn't know those things.
Yeah, you mean like when I was pregnant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like when you're living in North Carolina?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I didn't know that stuff. So that was interesting to know.
Yeah. Did you know that I lived with your uncle?
Mm-mm.
You didn't know that either. Okay. Yeah. What do you think has been... I wrote down some questions. So that's what I'm looking at. What do you think has been the hardest thing about your birth story?
I don't know. I don't really think about it much, to be honest. But I don't know. Sorry. I don't really know. I don't probably not knowing much before like now about it. So like I didn't know much about it and before like obviously the podcast and stuff. So that was like interesting. I guess.
Well, correction. Do you remember the first time that Daddy and I sat down with you and told you your birth story?
No.
So you were about 6 or 7. How old were you when we lived in Mississippi? When we were taking care of the boys?
I think I was like 7.
Yeah.
7, 8.
That was the first time. I think you were younger than 8 because it was closer to when we first moved there.
Oh, it was in 7.
Yeah. And you actually were asking about, you said, how come I'm in all the wedding photos of you and Daddy? And I was like, great question. And you began to ask questions like, you said that you're not supposed to have a baby until after you get married. And I was like, also valid question. And you began to just ask those types of questions. And so Daddy and I were like, all right, it's time to have this conversation with him. And honestly, when I look back, I probably should have began sharing the story sooner. And I think it was my own fear and my own shame that stopped me from doing so. But anyways, we sat you on the couch and I had already been reading these Where Do Babies Come From books with you and trying to explain to you like what sex is and how that happens and all of those things. And so that's kind of how we introduced the conversation of...
I thought that was in Starkville.
No, that was in
Yeah,
Purvis.
because I remember the book in Starkville.
Yep, we kept reading them. So to like go back, because you were always a very curious boy.
Okay.
Very curious. You still are. You have a lot of curiosity about life. It's a great thing that you have. And so you continue to ask questions. So anyways, we sat you down, long story short, and that is kind of how we started telling you the story. And I remember very plainly you said, so wait, that means you had sex before you were married. And I was like, I said, yes, Mommy did. And I think that was the most the longest pause that I had in the whole thing, because I was just like, wow, he really put that together and he really called me out. And so that was actually the first time that you heard your story. And then, don't you remember when we were living in Africa and I was asked to write a chapter in a book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were older then, and we kind of talked a lot more about your story then, and you actually started to ask questions about Frank and how we met and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you giving me that? Why are you staring at me like that? Did I say something?
No.
No. He lost his fidget toy. Okay. There's probably so much back on your microphone because you don't stop moving.
Sorry.
Okay. So speaking of questions, has it ever been difficult, or do you ever get nervous about asking me a question?
Yeah, because I feel like, I don't know, anytime like I ask like a question, I feel like you like take it like in a different way, or like you start to like think like you start to create like a meaning of why I asked the question, or like maybe he was just asking the question because he was curious, and then like you ask more questions when I don't actually have any more questions. Like, are you sure you don't have any more questions? I can answer any. I would tell you anything, Isaiah. And it's like, no, I actually don't have any more questions. Or like I feel like you want me to have questions when I don't actually have questions.
Yeah. That was good. So you get nervous to not ask me because you're afraid I'm going to make it bigger than what it is?
Yeah.
That seems pretty accurate. I tend to do that in life in general, so I'm not surprised by that, but I can appreciate that feedback. I know the reason why I say, like, you can ask me anything is because I don't ever want you to feel like you can't come to me and ask, or that you're worried about hurting my feelings, or because I know that you sometimes worry about that in other areas. Like, you want to honor me, and that's great. But I think sometimes you get worried, like, I'm going to be hurt if you want to know something about your past or something about Frank or anything like that. Is that true? Oh, come on. You have to be honest. People are reading your body language.
I don't know.
Oh, brother. He backed down. Okay. If there was one thing that you would want to communicate, like, you know how, like, I've shared with you that people have reached out and said, like, wow, I'm going through that, or I'm facing an unplanned pregnancy, or there's been some women that reached out and said, like, I have a lot of mom guilt too, like when I was raising. Do you want to move that just to make sure it's still working? Okay. And anyways, long story short, that people have, like, reached out and just said, like, how impactful sometimes hearing my story has helped them. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, if there was something that you wanted to share with people that maybe they're a child and they were adopted, or maybe their mom was facing an unplanned pregnancy. I don't know, just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts.
Well, I don't really think, like, I don't really like when, like, specific you say, or like anyone really says like I'm adopted, I just don't feel like I am. I just don't like, because like, I don't know, I feel like there's way more people that like, I don't want to say actually are adopted, but like kind of like actually are adopted, and I just don't consider myself like being like adopted. Like, I don't know. Like, not saying that I know there's way more different types of adoptions, but like obviously like when I first think of adoption, I think of like orphan kids, or I don't know, if that's the right wording, but I just don't think like, I wouldn't really say I'm like adopted. Like, I feel like if I were to go up to someone and was like I was adopted, like they're like, oh, do you know your biological parents? And I'd be like, yeah, like I know my mom, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. And also like, it wasn't like dad like came into my life when I was like 13 or like even like 7 or something. Like, I don't even remember. Like, I always remember dad. Like, so like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Daddy did adopt you and got your last name changed, and we had to go to court and all of that stuff. But you were little. You were 3 when it was official, and Daddy kind of came into your life. Like officially, I let him into your life when you were 2, maybe a year and a half, but was really protective over you in your younger years of not allowing people around that I didn't know if they were going to be secure and steady. But after Daddy and I became serious, yeah. So he has been around since you were young. So it's a valid point. Although you still have part of your story is an adoption story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is one thing though, because you definitely didn't answer my question. And we can't even see your face because your knees are up.
I'm getting comfortable.
Oh, okay.
It's cold in here.
Oh gosh. Okay. So what is something though that you would say, maybe it's even a mom who's listening right now who's facing an unplanned pregnancy, a teenager. What's one thing that, or many things that you might want to say to them?
I don't know. If, like, I guess, like, if you just, like, keep doing what you think is right, then it would be, like, it'll all turn out, like, fine. Or if you, like, strive to have, like, more of, like, a steady, like, period in your life, like, especially since you're going to be taking care of, like, another person, and try to create, like, I guess, like, a quote-unquote normal, like, and not, like, constant, like, I don't know, like, especially after they're born, like, just to, like, try to create most stable, or, like, I don't know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, environment that they can, like, grow up in. And because, like, even now, like, I feel like that's part of the reason why I don't think about it too much, is because, like, I don't know, like, I didn't have to experience it going on, like, as I got older. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just felt like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, especially because, like, even dad was there and stuff like that. So it's just, like, and I always remember dad being there, so it's just, like, I guess, like, quote-unquote normal, like, oh, I just have 2 parents, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, that wouldn't work for, like, everyone, but, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So your encouragement is to create stability.
Yeah.
The best way that they can. And could you define what you mean by do what you think is right? Because we know that we live in a world where everybody thinks their way is right. So what does that mean when you say that?
I don't know. I just mean, like, don't, I don't know, like, don't do anything, like, that, don't do something that you don't feel, like, comfortable with, and necessarily, like, don't be pressured into doing anything, or, like, doing a certain thing for, like, because you're taking care of another person now, or going to be. So, like, I guess just, like, try to take care of that person, like, how you would want to be, like, taken care of. but like don't do anything because someone else is telling you to like do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you mean in regards to like making decisions?
Yeah, like what to do with the baby if, like, you know what I'm saying?
You keep saying you know what I'm saying, so but go ahead. You can explain. These are all off the like cuff questions, so I'm hearing for the first time like everyone else. So, do you mean like after the baby is born, or while you're pregnant,
or while you're like if Guido or my grandpa or grandma like wanted, I know like they don't obviously have the same like viewpoints as my mom and stuff like that, and I'm sure there's like times where like they wanted my mom to do something that like she didn't feel like necessarily wanted to be done, but like not having like her be pressured to do anything with that.
Yeah, totally understand what you're saying. So now our listeners probably don't because they don't know our personal experiences, but I think what you're trying to say is while a woman is pregnant, that she needs to process through her decisions and not accommodate others in what they think might be best. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Yeah, I believe that life should be honored in the womb, and obviously we're pro adoption as well, and believe that that's a wonderful life-giving option for people. And in fact, when I went to the crisis pregnancy center, it was something that they shared with me about adoptions and how it's truly such a selfless decision that a birth mother makes. It's an incredible act of love. And so I am all about that over here. Anyways, do you have anything else to say about that?
No.
Wow. I'm thinking like when we're in the house, I should just start asking you questions. You'll be a lot quieter.
I'm a man of many words.
You are a man of many words, not few, yet you're not talking much.
Hey, this is your thing.
Okay. Okay, let me see if I had any other questions. I guess my last question, unless you had anything you want to add, would be how do you think that your birth story affects how you view life? We're about to go deep.
You just had to say that. Can you say the question again?
Yeah. How do you think your life experience, like your birth story, affects like your point of view, your the way you view life now? And you cannot say I don't know. That is the only rule I have going forward.
I don't know. I'm joking. JK. I would say that it affects it because
you're like constantly moving. Can y'all tell he's got like what is it called?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would say it affects my life. It just makes me like, now that I'm like thinking about it now even more, is just because like I know a lot of people don't have like two parents and stuff like that, or like don't have like that stability like I was talking about beforehand. And like I feel like I'm grateful because like it doesn't really affect me that much like right now, like in my life now, because it didn't, like I wasn't around that when I was younger. Like I don't even really think about it that often, so I think it just makes me feel like lucky, and like also think about others that are in those situations but didn't get the same like opportunity that I did. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing you say, like, it gives you a greater appreciation and also compassion for those who are being raised in single family homes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Do you have questions for me?
No, I don't.
What?
I don't. Honestly, not because I'm nervous either for what my mom's gonna think. I'm trying to think, honestly. Honestly, no. I honestly, I feel like watching like the podcast and stuff did answer like questions I didn't necessarily like knew I had or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because of like what I was talking about beforehand, I really don't think about it too often. Like it doesn't like cause me to lose sleep or anything like that. Like I feel like also because like when I was younger, my mom did tell me all those things. She was so open about it as well and telling me everything. And when I did ask questions, they were answered. So it didn't really cause me like any like doubt or times to think of like any questions. So yeah.
So that's the first time I've ever heard that about me being open and how that was helpful. And so maybe encouragement for a mom who either is choosing life for her baby and raising it, or for a mother who or father who has adopted a child. What I'm hearing you say is being honest and open has been helpful.
Yeah.
That's good. I wish somebody would have told me that sooner. Not necessarily you because you're so little, but I think fear really takes a grip on people in sharing because it's like unknown how someone's going to respond or how your child's going to respond. And so at least that was my experience. Good. Well, any other thoughts?
No.
Comments?
Like, subscribe, share. You got another one? Oh, notifications on.
There you go. Are you getting some allergies that your eyes like all red? Oh, it must be dusty in here.
No, it's not that. My car is like covered in pollen. All the pollen is like.
Oh, your car.
No, just everything. Like,
the
pollen is like everywhere. It's everywhere.
So, okay. Well, I guess then we don't have anything else unless you had something else you wanted to share.
No.
Okay. Well, that was easy. Well, I'm thankful for Isaiah that he said yes. I'm thankful, Isaiah, that you are willing to edit the videos and make the reels. I don't even pick what happens on the reels. He does all of that. And it's honestly better that way because we would just fight about it.
Sometimes we do, so.
Yeah. Not about what you put on the reel.
No.
Oh. You mean just fight in general? Yeah, I was like... We actually don't fight about the reels at all.
Also, we have to figure out what we're going to do next. Because we're over with the journal.
We are.
Season 2. Bum, bum, bum.
Maybe.
Yes, we're doing season. If you think we should do another whatever, because my mom thinks that we have to stick to a journal, which necessarily you don't have to.
Okay.
We could do something else. We can invite more lovely guests like me to the podcast.
Who doesn't want to talk? Who's this? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Quote of the day. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We should. If you think we should do another podcast, like the video and share and comment.
Another podcast.
Not another podcast. You know what I mean? Another vid. But yeah, another podcast, another episode. Season, maybe. Journal? Question mark?
Yeah, it's a possibility.
I say yes.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Like,
Anyways. Okay. I don't think we have any other thoughts, right?
thanks, Mom, for inviting me.
Thanks for agreeing. I love you.
Aww. Love you too.
Did you guys get that? Too bad there wasn't someone here to zoom in on that. But in fact, it's just us and a ring light.
And a ring light. You can clearly see in Mom's glasses.
Well, couldn't prepare for that part. All right, friends, family, listeners. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Bye-bye. Peace.